Item 3 is an economic incentive agreement between Lawyers Building, LLC, and the City of Gastonia downtown revitalization. The presentation is by Mr. Ed Munn, City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I will start this conversation, and the city attorney who has been working on the details of this agreement may come in to help, and also Mr. Kirby is here as well, so if there are further questions, he is here to answer. But basically, this is the extension of that item that we had on our last city council agenda. On August the 6th, the city council directed the staff to move forward with Mr. Kirby and to develop a economic incentive agreement. And this is an agreement between the City of Gastonia and the Lawyers Building of Gastonia, LLC. And one of the things that we discussed at the last meeting was we wanted to understand what the county was doing. The county has since, on August 13th, approved a $27,160 a year grant to this Lawyers Building project for 10 years. So they have done their economic development grant, or have voted, and that was a 6-0 vote. What you have in front of you, actually I think there's a copy that has been distributed that updates from what we sent out in the mail. In fact, I think it was all the way up to about 4:30 or 5 o'clock today that we were going back, tweaking the words and getting all of this right. But basically, what this does is it provides a economic development incentive grant to the Lawyers Building. The Lawyers Building and the property to the east, which is a vacant lot next to the county building. It'll provide for a parking facility there with at least 20 spaces. Probably we'll be able to get about 24 spaces in there. The development of the Lawyers Building itself, this is that 7-story iconic building built about 1918 that has been vacant in our downtown. This building that everybody sees and everybody takes pictures of, that has not been used and for more than 2 decades. We now have this opportunity to turn it into a hotel. And the hotel would take up 5 of all the stories other than the first floor. The first floor would be a full-service restaurant, and then the hotel would be everything, all the other stories going up. The area immediately to the west is between the bottle shop and where the Lawyers Building itself sits. That property would continue to be an open patio area, and much the way it was when that bank building was first built. If you see the old pictures in the postcard, that was an open area between the old post office and the Lawyers Building. What is in this agreement? There are a number of things that are important. First of all, it defines what capital expenses are. It requires that the developer spend at least $2.4 million over an 18-month period on the building, that parking spaces, at least 20, are provided, that there's certificate of compliances in terms of the building construction, all the other government approvals, the licenses, and all of that are to be done. The annual payments are $58,755. That's actually less than was discussed at the last meeting, which was $61,000. That's the fixed amount. And then there's the variable grant payment, and that has to do with the net increase in taxes. And so however the taxes are paid, then a year later, then that is calculated what the net difference is. One of the things that's very important is that the first payment is not done until a whole year after, really a year and 60 days after the building opens. So this is not money in advance of a project, but it's actually, you will have the project first, and then the payments are once a year for 10 years. And as long as the hotel, and as long as the restaurant continue in service, then each year the economic development can go forward. Most all of this money is money that's being generated by the property itself. So you're really not taking, almost all of this is really taken from totally the revenues that are produced by this property. In addition, the requirement is that this building be rehabbed according to National Park Service standards. This is for the historic tax credits. There's also language in here that talks about that the kind of materials that were originally used in that old bank building, that they try to use the original materials or as close as they can to get that back to the original beauty of that very iconic building. The next, some other covenants that are included in here include that the restaurant has to be open at least 6 days, that the hotel has to be open and operating 365 days a year, that also it deals with the kind of hotel and the kind of fixtures that go in there. It talks about a 3-diamond rating, and that 3-diamond rating is a AAA rating or some other rating agreement that we mutually agree to. Also, in terms of the operation, the management contract has to have a qualified management company with experience in the hotel industry, sufficient personnel to manage and staff the hotel, a general manager who devotes his or her full time to the operation of the hotel. That's in here as well. The grantee shall operate a contract for the restaurant. The restaurant has to be open at least for breakfast and dinner. It has to have, again, 6 days, and it has to be overall full-service operation. The hotel occupancy it has to be at least 30%. We really think it's going to be much more than that. That's just a base number. But these are the kind of benchmarks the City Council directed us to use. They're actually included in this agreement as affirmative covenants, but it's the same thing as benchmarks, that and the specifics of the payment. So that is the overview of the Economic Development Grant. If you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Again, Mr. Kirby is here, and Mr. Smith wrote every little word and every comma and every, so he can help.
First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Munn, the staff, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Kirby. I know personally from working on the committee, we've been hearing about this for probably a little over a year, and everybody's been working very hard and diligently, and I think you've come up with something that's very fair to the city, to the taxpayers, and to the developer to get this iconic building going. Just 2 quick questions. One's kind of not even really that relevant, but I'm happy to see that the amount went down. Is there a particular reason that went down? Just you were able to sharpen your pencils? I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, I think sharpening pencil. And really, whenever you're projecting revenues and there is an estimating going on. And so I think as Mr. Kirby did further work, that number actually came down, which was good.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. The second question I had, like I said, this is not relevant to the project at all. It just caught my eye. One of the benchmarks is under D, 5D to be specific. It says, grantee shall operate or conduct for the operation of the restaurant, which shall provide at a minimum table service for breakfast and dinner. Why not lunch?
Well, everything's a negotiation. We started out at open for 3 meals, and they were like 2 meals, and we said, okay, well, breakfast and dinner, with the hope that if you're going to be open for breakfast and dinner, it just financially doesn't make sense to close up for lunch. He has the option, but I'm sure when he opens it to start with, he's going to try 3 meals to begin with.
It just gives him an option.
Gives him an option.
It
was a give and take.
To me, he could serve cotton candy as long as the project's successful. I wouldn't care. I saw that it was breakfast and dinner. I thought, well, why not lunch? But okay, there's a logical explanation. I accept that. Thank you.
Ms. Craig?
I just have one question also, and I think it's a wonderful project. I'm glad that the county is helping to support this. I think it's a partnership that is a good message that we're sending to the community. I only have one question, and that is, when we make that annual payment, is that made out to the Lawyers Building of Gastonia LLC of North Carolina Limited Liability Company? Is that who the...
Believes.
Yes, right now, unless we get some, sort of assignment of it to another LLC. Right now, that is the entity that we have contracted with, and that is who the payment will go to.
Okay, if it changes, does that have to come back to council?
Except in the event of foreclosure, the bank obviously has its rights under the foreclosure instrument and then can, assign it per the mortgage. But the assignment, just for assignment's sake, does come back to council.
Okay, all right, that's fine, thank you.
Dr. Curley?
I just had one quick question and a remark also, but in terms of Mr. Kirby, tell us about the windows. What will you be required to do as the rehab man here in terms of these windows and the historic tax credits? And I was just curious because there's a lot of windows.
And while he comes up, before he begins on the windows, if I could clarify, Councilwoman Craig, if you look in Section 8, what we did was we gave the city manager the right to consent to an assignment without action by city council.
Oh, okay.
And he would inform you of that, and you would know about that. Okay. But we did put that in there for the city manager. That's been in there since the original draft. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the windows, there are quite a few of them. It's probably, square footage wise, it probably has more windows than any building in town. They're in good shape. There's been no water damage except to the steel windows that are on the rear and the eastern facade of the building, and those are mostly repairable. The wood windows, have been remarkably. Have to thank the Hutchins for mothballing this thing and being good stewards of it, because it's being kept in remarkable shape. It's the windows don't have any to replace except a few in the ground floor and the storefront, so they'll be all sanded, repainted, resealed around the exterior of the windows, around the perimeter of the window to the stone. But for the most part, we're going to leave all the lead glass that we can possibly leave. We're going to apply to the Park Service and see if they'll allow us to put a 3M film on the glass that will allow us to get a little better energy efficiency without having to replace the beautiful, aged lead glass that's in the building. That'll keep the old historic look and the wavy look that folks are used to seeing in an old building like this, but also allow us to reflect some of the rays and try to get as close to that insulated glass rating that we would normally see in a new building. We won't likely get LEED certification on the project just simply because of the all of the inefficiencies of an old building, but we'll get as close as we possibly can and try to help the environment and save as much as we possibly can on this thing.
Great. And I just want to say I'm extremely excited about this project, and we wish you the best of luck. And I think it truly will be another catalyst for downtown development, and we're all rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kirby, Mr. Munn, maybe want to address this. When we kind of deliberate on the potential of this project, one area that looms somewhat large is a potential to increase the amount of business that our conference center has. And I know that there's been some potential fact-finding in this area by our staff at the conference center, and I believe we've come up with some numbers as far as what we may have as a potential to increase the some of our usage of the conference center. I don't know who maybe would like to address that.
We have estimated $21,000 essentially that we see additional revenues annually to the conference center. But it was Bill Owen who is here, and I think probably could speak to it better than maybe either Nathan or I.
Yeah, definitely.
Bill,
definitely put you in the hot seat.
Probably the biggest that this brings to the conference center is by having the rooms downtown. There's a market out there that we've been after, and that's the group corporate business seminars that want to bring the trainers and the corporate folks into town, but they want a place within walking distance. And we have prospectors out there that work on these groups, and 20%, because we do lost business reports, actually tell us they won't even deal with us because we don't have a hotel either on the property or within walking distance. So that's huge for us. I think $20,000 is a low number to what it could actually mean at the conference center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing further, sir. Thank you.
Not really a question, just
Yeah.
one more comment. Since Mr. Owen came forward, I want to thank him for working with staff and the developer and Ash on this project. That's certainly something that's not in his job description. I know that Mr. Owen worked very hard with them to come up with these numbers, and so thank you, Mr. Owen. Publicly thank you. And then second, Mr. Munn, this is a little bit, I don't want to say unique, because it's certainly not something we came up with, but it's a little bit unique for the way we've done things in downtown in the past. And you touched on it, but I wanted to emphasize that this project is going to be complete, the hotel will be open, people will be eating in the restaurant before we ever release a dime. And this means the developer has to believe in his idea and put his money on the table first. It's very important that people understand that. It's not an incentive program in that we're just handing over a check saying, good luck, hope you can make it. This is completely different from the way we've done business in Gastonia, in downtown Gastonia in the past. So this does represent kind of a departure and a change, and I just think that should be recognized and explained. So just a comment, not a question. Thank you, Mayor.
Can I make one?
Let me
Okay.
ask you, if I may, I got to do something to keep from untangling this. I'm still working on it. I believe you said at the last meeting that, and Mr. Munn said a date, but I believe you said next year's the 100th anniversary. So that maybe 1914?
It depends on who you ask.
Okay.
You know, the building was,
Understand.
the building was, they started construction in 1914.
Okay.
So technically, if we finish next year, it'll be the 100th anniversary of the year it actually started construction. It wasn't actually completed and placed in service and opened until 1918.
Gotcha.
So it is one anniversary. Of course, we'll probably try to celebrate another 100th year anniversary 4 years later, but we're definitely feel good that 100 years after the date that construction began, we're going to have the thing back up and running again.
Okay, is the, what, if this, of course, passes and the county's passed, what happens next? And how long, and give us a sort of a, when can I stay there or whatever, you know?
Well,
what you
we're
expect?
hoping to substantially complete by the end of the year. Now, that doesn't mean that we'll have our certificate of occupancy necessarily, or mean that we'll have folks staying in the building. What it basically means is we get the bulk of our construction done so that we've made the major part of our investment. We breathe, we come back to our punch list, get the operation set up. As we touched on, we're not operating the hotel. There's folks that are much more capable of doing that than us. We've never done it before, so it'll be contracted out to a qualified company, very likely. So, or we'll hire a qualified manager to handle it and set up the operation. So we're probably looking at end of first quarter, middle of second quarter for an actual opening. So it's not that far off. It's less than a year. And so if things continue to move down the path that they are, now our intention is to file for a permit sometime in September, file for our demo permit around the 1st of September. I think our asbestos abatement permit should come back from Diener like the 28th or 27th or something like that. I'll have to double check the date, but once that's done, it's about 4 days to remove the asbestos. There's very little in the building. I'll remove all the friable asbestos, start our demolition. When the roof gets demoed, we'll have to come back and take that asbestos flashing off. So we'll stop the demo process long enough to take the roof flashing off, tear the roof off, put a new roof back on, and then we can start our renovation. So, you know, we're talking about, Mr. Munn pointed out about the finishes. We're trying to locate the exact type of marble that was on the walls originally. That's a rather tough thing to do. It's 100 years old. They quarried it, you know, quite some time ago. So We're trying to match up the color as best we can so we can go back in and if possible, remarble the ground floor, which will, I would say probably make it the nicest hotel in the region, if not the state at that point. Granted, I'd like to point out also our meeting yesterday with Travel Tourism that Mr. Kimball had asked that we meet with them. It was very, very positive. We went into that expecting not to have the support of the hoteliers on the committee, and they felt like this was something that will be great for our community and great for the hotel industry in Gaston County. So we had, pretty much unanimous support there, as well as they felt like our revenue projections were too conservative. They felt like the city and county were going to earn a much greater return than we were even projecting. So I hope, in a long answer there, I hope we're open second quarter at the latest.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Ms. Craig, Mr. Pearson?
I was going to make a motion to,
I was going to make a motion too, so go right ahead.
motion to approve the contract with Lawyers Building of Gastonia LLC.
I will second that.
Is there any discussion?
Sir, thank you, sir. Nathan, one quick question. Now, I know that there was talk of maybe filming the renovation of this building. Where exactly are you on that, and the Perspective Network, and where are we going?
We still have our show out to 2 networks, and we get comments back on it. So that's still out there. Whether we were picked up by network or not, we'll still film the entire process.
Okay.
And we'll still do basically a season of the show like we did for the Hickory project. And that will, if it's not put to television or cable, it will be put to our website at preservation.com, which should be launching here in about 2 weeks is what we're looking at. So, we should get a tremendous amount of exposure for the community at preservation.com. I mean, it's a pretty easy name to search for when you're looking for historic preservation. So, and we're just excited to have the opportunity and help be a catalyst for the renaissance of downtown.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. No other discussion. All in favor? It is. All opposed? I started to say unanimous. 6-1.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.